Your radio is back. New studio, new equipment, fresh topics. We'll be back after the break.
All you have to do is read a newspaper or watch TV to know our investments and our savings have lost value in this tough economy, and no one knows how long this will last. Hi, I'm Jay Johnson, former director of the U.S. Mint. I supervised our nation's gold supply, and I'm often asked why I buy gold. I buy gold because it helps protect against inflation and huge government spending. Gold offers diversity in a bad economy, and it's a safe haven asset that has never dropped to zero. In fact, did you know gold prices have tripled since 2001 and may reach new record highs because of inflation and the falling dollar? Make gold part of your portfolio. Call Goldline now, a company with nearly $500 million in annual sales. Goldline has been helping investors acquire gold for nearly 50 years. Call Goldline now. Ask for your free investor's kit and learn why gold should be a part of your portfolio. Call now.
I came home last night and my door was smashed open. It's like they knew right where to go. Like they'd been in my house before. They got my cameras, the silver, the coins. My husband's beautiful old shotgun. They took my jewelry. I can't believe it. It's all gone.
Each year, more than 4 million homes are burglarized in the U.S. Keep your valuables safe and secure with a safe that gives you an extra margin of protection. A Liberty safe is built tough and offers the most technologically advanced security features available. Plus, Liberty safes are independently certified for residential security, and they're built right here in the U.S. Don't take a chance when it comes to your home security. Purchase a Liberty safe for the things you value most.
Some things can be replaced. Some just can't.
To learn more, go to libertysafe.com or visit this dealer in your area.
Exclusive by Slays.
Obama gives a speech last week calling for online voting, and not only that, online registration and online voting for the presidential election as well. Is this a big bad joke or what? I mean, come on. They couldn't even put together a healthcare website to connect people to their health insurance and benefits. I mean, 3 years, $600 million to a crony company that they had a relationship with. I know places that could have done that website for $1 million. Could have been in and out and done. Not only that, to add insult to injury, 2 years ago, IBM Consultants came up with a plan to streamline healthcare. They were going to do it for free, and the Obama administration turns the offer down. You know why? Because somebody had their pockets lined. This company out of Canada, for all places, spent 3 years on this website, and it's not even up. And that's the bad thing. The really bad thing is there's no back end for the website. So people don't have coverage. People don't know. They can't confirm if they have coverage. People going to the doctor, the hospitals, and don't even know if they have coverage or not. I mean, that is just sad. And now you got Aetna, one of the biggest insurers in the country. I think they're number 6. They're pulling out of Obamacare. How many policies is that going to affect? How many people are going to be left naked, uncovered, without insurance? According to the Federal Register, before the 2010 elections, well, the 2012 elections, the Obama administration had noticed that up to 100 million people could be displaced from their medical insurance due to the implementation and provisions that are inside of Obamacare. So now we know he lied. People are going to be without insurance. They're going to try to push us onto some government program or bail out the insurance companies to try to keep Obamacare from floating, to keep Obamacare floating. So this thing is a disaster, folks. This thing is a total disaster. In other news, Dinesh D'Souza, the author of Obama's America and which was the subject of a film that was made last year before the elections and released, Obama 2016, is now under federal elections investigations for bundling money, for legally bundling money. Now the federal government is investigating this man only because he put out the truth about our president. I mean, that's the thing. And the sad thing is, this is the sad part. And it's not about Dinesh. It's not about him being targeted. It's not about, well, part of it is the Tea Party being targeted. But the sad thing is, you have conservatives out there, Republicans, so-called conservatives, that think that we're supposed to moderate. Are we supposed to moderate with these people? I mean, they're out to kill us. You got James O'Keefe being investigated in New York. You got Dinesh D'Souza being investigated by the federal government and by the FEC. And then you also have Tea Party groups last year and currently being targeted by the IRS, by their own government that's supposed to be representing them, representing the taxpayer. We have a government of representation. We have a republic, but yet you have some in the bureaucracy that are abusing power, that are taking away the rights of free speech from conservative groups or opposition groups, groups that have an alternative opinion or view on these issues. And then you have Republicans, progressive Republicans and moderate Republicans saying that, the Tea Party, they have a bad name, or we're supposed to moderate with these people. How can we moderate with people that are trying to kill us politically, financially, trying to kill our rights to free speech, trying to kill the Bill of Rights? How can you moderate with that? I mean, come on, folks. You can't moderate with that. You can't negotiate with people that are using, or with officials that are using terrorist tactics. It's just not going to happen. And so the best thing, these people have to be defeated. They can't be negotiated with. They can't be worked with. We have to defeat them. And if we try to push through moderate candidates like Lindsey Graham and McCain and Ayotte and so many others, we're going to lose. We've already lost. Because guess what? Push comes to shove with these moderate candidates. When it comes to defending the Bill of Rights, they're not going to do it. People like Peter King aren't going to do it. People like Lindsey Graham aren't going to do it. People like John McCain, they're not going to stand up for the Bill of Rights. People like Chris Christie isn't going to stand up for the Bill of Rights. I'm sorry. So if we are at a starting point where there's an issue on the table and it's threatening our Bill of Rights, individual liberty, our First or Second Amendment rights, and we have to lobby for them to defend, to do what's right, to do what's under the Constitution, to do their jobs, then we've already lost. We have to elect more candidates that are going to represent the people. We have to elect more candidates that are going to represent us, like Ted Cruz, like Mike Lee, like Rand Paul. We got to elect people like that are going to stand there in the face of fire, and they're going to just push forward. We got to elect people like Scott Walker, who was recalled in his own state by outside interests. They were just not even voters on that petition because according to Wisconsin law, you don't have to have registered voters to petition for the recall. All they have to do is be of voting age, and that's what happened. Outside special interests, inside unions, Scott Walker still standing, still there, standing strong, and now because of conservative policies that have been implemented, they have a $1 billion surplus. That's how you win, folks. You fight to win. You don't fight to moderate, and maybe we can get a deal here, and maybe we can get a deal there. It doesn't happen that way. You have to fight to win. You have to fight to defeat them. The Tea Party's most vocal critics, of course, it comes from inside the Republican Party. Of course, we like to eat our own, so to speak. So you got Peter King. He's starting a super PAC to target Tea Party conservatives. You know what? Go somewhere and die, Peter King, all right? You're nothing but a Democrat in Republican clothing, okay? You don't do any good in the Congress. All you do is go along to get along. A few months ago, they wanted to go in Syria. You were all for that so much that you gave this scary but incoherent rant about going into Syria on the Sean Hannity show. Then you also got liberals. They don't even know what the Tea Party is, because they get all of their information fourth person via the lamestream media, not even mainstream. I don't call them mainstream, because you know why? Because more people in this country line up with conservative values. 40% of voters are conservative. 20% voters ideologically are liberals. And so those independents that you're trying to pin either here or there, 9 times out of 10, common sense would tell you that most of them at least lean towards conservatism, or at least fiscal conservatism, having a disciplined government, limited government. And so, but we have this whole narrative that started back in '88, I remember, right after George H.W. Bush, about going towards the aisle, reaching across the aisle. We got to reach for the independents. We got to, Republicans have to contort themselves into a moderate pretzel in order to get that ever-eluding independent vote. That vote isn't going to come, folks. And I'm tired of the narrative, that conservatives are too extreme, or, we're too this and we're too that, and so what? So forget what they say. Conservatives, Tea Party conservatives, they just want a disciplined government. They just want the Bill of Rights. They want free speech. They want their Second Amendment rights not being threatened every time the Senate goes into session, or every time a liberal Democrat is elected and the Secretary of State flirts with the UN gun ban treaty. We want a government constrained. We want our sovereignty. We want our freedom and our personal property. We don't want go along to get along government. Here we are, 17 trillion in debt, spending our children's future. And you have people within the Republican Party talking about moderate. Are you kidding me? You got people blaming Ted Cruz and Mike Lee and Rand Paul and Marco Rubio for the shutdown. We need more shutdowns. We're 17 trillion in debt. And you want to talk about income inequality? All right, talk about that debt and how the inflation is killing moderate incomes to working poor households in America. Talk about how we're going to get to the point that we're going to have so much debt within the Federal Reserve, so much debt borrowing from China and borrowing from other places that we may not be able to pay it back. We're going to have so much debt that when we're going to feel it every time we go to the grocery store, every time we pay our heating bill, every time we buy an automobile. That's what's being lost here. Forget moderation. This is war, baby. We have to defeat these guys. We have debt. We have an Obamacare bill that threatens employment for probably the next 10 to 20 years if it's not repealed. We have a dwindling healthcare market. Doctors are leaving the market. We have some real problems here. And you have conservatives talking about moderation. No, we need some fighters there. We need some more people that are going to go to bat and fight. As far as the issues, I mean, we line up ideologically probably with a lot of conservative Democrats and probably with a lot of people that are in the Libertarian Party. I mean, we should be building a tent for people that are tired of the Democrats going to Washington and spending up debt, tired of the Republicans going to Washington, and people that are kind of libertarian minded, that that care about individual freedoms that are being dwindled under this presidency and the past 2 presidencies. So I'm tired of it. I'm not gonna vote for anything just because they have an R behind their name. I'm gonna vote my conscience. Forget that. I don't care if it's Gary John. I don't care. I'm not voting for another moderate, liberal / progressive Republican. It's not going to happen. And we shouldn't happen. We need to strengthen up the legislature. We need to retain as many as House seats as we can. We need to get as many Senate seats as we can and hopefully take over the Senate. And we need to focus on local and state elected officials and our state legislatures and our governor's offices. we need to focus on those races. The U.S. presidency might we be without of reach in 2016. I hope it's not. But if it is, we need to focus time and money on those people that are closer to us, like our legislative reps. And with a strong enough majority, we can push our agenda from the ground up. I'm talking conservatives. I'm talking people that are constitutionally sound, people that are for a strict interpretation of the Constitution, which the founders envisioned, people that are for sound money, people that are for a balanced budget. That's what I'm talking about. People that are for individual liberty and protecting the Bill of Rights, not watering it down via legislation or through the courts. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm tired of voting for rhinos. I'm tired. That whole moderation argument, it doesn't hold a can of paint. And, talk about getting independent votes. Romney was up 13% amongst independents, and he still lost people. So where's this argument coming from? I'm tired of Democrats framing the argument, framing the narrative, and picking our candidates for us. I'm not voting for Bob Dole no more. I'm not voting for George H.W. Bush. I'm not voting for John McCain. And I'm not voting for Romney. And I'm sure as hell not voting for Chris Christie. So, a lot of Republicans I know in Virginia, they're getting the wrong impressions about what happened on that race. I'm going to tell you what happened, because I was here in New Jersey on the Lonigan campaign on the ground, and I'm going to tell you why they lost Virginia. First of all, Cuccinelli, the one thing that really hurt him was that pursuit for the sodomy case. That sodomy law case kind of killed him on a social issue front. But another thing, the RNC, they pulled out of Virginia early. This was a race that was winnable, but the RNC pulled out. But even with the RNC pulled out, Ken Cuccinelli, they threw everything at this race. This is why I say the moderation doesn't work. The Democrats are in trouble. Hillary Clinton came down. Bill Clinton came down. Other prominent Democrats came down. Obama made a stop from Air Force One down there to campaign for McCarthy, because they weren't fighting for Virginia per se. Yeah, Virginia's trending blue, mostly because, like Margaret Thatcher always said. But when you look at Virginia, a lot of the government jobs there are, related to the private sector via consulting, or, whether it's directly through government or some federal quasi-organization. And so Northern Virginia is full of government workers, transplants that comes from other parts of the country via, whether it's the military or they work for some federal bureaucracy or something related. So Northern Virginia is going to trend blue. There are certain parts of Northern Virginia that are conservative, but very few. When you look at Southern Virginia, it's also trending that way as well, because, like I said, a lot of jobs down there are government jobs. A lot of government jobs are federal jobs. There are a lot of state workers down there, too, in Southern Virginia. And so if you have a state bureaucracy or something that's being funded by the federal government, you can also take that into consideration. 3 out of 4 jobs in Virginia are government related. So it's no mystery to me why McCarthy won. While Republicans can win in Virginia, historically that seat normally changes parties. So it's very rare where there's an incumbent and his party retains the seat. It just doesn't happen. But to say that, and I say that knowing that Ken Cuccinelli was very close to winning, Democrats threw everything but the kitchen sink at that race. You had outside special interests throwing money at the race. You had Planned Parenthood throwing money at the race. You had 4,600 abortion ads ran in Northern Virginia. So the single woman demographic came out and voted for that race. That's what happened to Virginia. It wasn't the Tea Party. The Tea Party didn't really have a strong showing in Virginia, and now it looks like the Democrats down there in Richmond has won that vacant Senate seat in the special election. So now Senate, the Republicans have the House, so they can, kind of, put his agenda on hold. But say that, knowing that he's going to take the Obama model and run with it. He's going to abuse the office of the governorship. Him and the Senate are going to use it via collusion. They're going to pass laws via collusion. You know, you can expect parliamentary tricks for passing laws there. You know, McCarthy is a big climate, global warming investor. He has a company that sells green products. So you're going to expect him. He's going to go after the coal industry in Virginia. You know, he's going to go after utilities in Virginia. So that's what you're going to expect. Also, George W. Bush operatives helped McCarthy's campaign. I don't know why I don't know why I'm getting flack from conservatives saying that the Tea Party lost the state race when you have moderate Republicans that didn't help Cuccinelli, they helped McCarthy. So, you know, enough of that blame of the Tea Party stuff. I'm tired of this stuff because, you know, we've been trying to moderate for 20 years now. We keep getting our butts handed to us. I'm talking about Republicans, but I'm really talking about conservatives, you know. So that's what happened in Virginia. I mean, that's if you really want to interpret it. You know, if you want to interpretate where conservatism worked, look at places like Wisconsin, Scott Walker. Look at Texas. Texas right now has a $2 billion surplus. Rick Perry the end of last year, cut a check to the taxpayer, the owners of the money, as he or Governor Walker would say. Next year, in the fall, in September, Texas is going to have a $8 billion surplus in their rainy day fund. And they're doing all of this with no state income tax. Folks, conservatism works everywhere it's tried. You know, I'm tired of the narrative. Just look at Ronald Reagan. Cut taxes, right? Curve back on regulations. In his presidency, he oversaw the greatest economic expansion in the history of the world. 21 million people went to work. And that touches every demographic, whether you're black, Hispanic, or white, or whatever. Whether you're gay or straight, people found jobs, and the economy affects everybody. And that's the message that conservatives have to get across, and we have to articulate this correctly, and we have to do it in a simple way that, you know, people are going to understand free market economics. It's not complicated, because when you look at the history of the world, the greater the freedom is, the greater the economic prosperity. I don't care where you look. The bigger the government, the poorer the country is. That's just plain, simple, and common sense. Bigger your government is, your government being your dollars, your taxes that you work every day for. The bigger your government is and the more that they take, the less disposable income you have and the less prosperous the nation is. And that's just common sense. So you look at examples like Ronald Reagan, you know, who combated inflation, combated the Soviet Union simultaneously. 21 million people went to work. When you look at Scott Walker, $312 million surplus, almost $1 billion. You know, so the Reagan examples are living, you know, in small ways. And none of this is being covered. None of this is being covered by design. You're not going to see this on CNN or in MSNBC because they want to duplicate California throughout the country. You know, they say the states are the laboratories of the country. Well, they want to duplicate California. Record debt, a train to nowhere project, a high-speed rail project, going to places where you still have to get off and drive a car somewhere. Amnesty. They want the DREAM Act via illegals getting free education, free college education. That's what the liberals want, and this will destroy our nation. This will destroy our republic if we allow an amnesty bill, just like California, just like New Jersey, Chris Christie signing off tuition for illegals. This type of policy will destroy the nation, because you have plenty of people that are coming from other countries, not just Mexico, people that are sneaking through that border, which undermines our sovereignty, undermines our national security. You have plenty of people that are coming to the country the right way. They're spending the money going and getting an immigration lawyer and, putting the time in to get those classes, learning the language, learning the English language, learning about the history of the country and the Constitution, and learning about how great this country is, versus you're going to, the Democrats and the Republicans in Washington are contemplating rewarding illegals with an amnesty bill. Are you kidding me? Remember the Boston bombing? Remember the bombing? One guy was illegal. The other guy was here on an overextended visa. So we can't even police the current legal immigration population. And so how are we going to give amnesty from anywhere estimated from 11 million to 13 million illegals and expect our federal government to police that? And you know why our federal government can't police that? Because our federal government is too busy telling us what kind of light bulb we can use in our houses. Federal government is too busy taking over healthcare, 1/6 of the economy. The most personal and private relationship is between the doctor and between the patient. And sometimes even more so than the spouse, because there are some things that relates to your health that your doctor is going to know maybe even before your spouse. So this is a total usurp of our country, of our Constitution, total violation of the First Amendment rights via free speech, religious speech with the contraceptive mandate, total violation of the Fourth Amendment rights, a right to privacy. You're going to have the IRS peering into your health records. Total violation of the 10th Amendment with this Obamacare bill, the health care bill, Affordable Care Act. It totally usurps power from the states and flips the Constitution upside down. And you have people in Washington, moderate and liberal Republicans, think that we need to moderate. You have Republicans, low information Republicans in the country, thinking that we're poisoning the well because we want a strong physical conservative government. We want somebody to actually stand up for the taxpayer. We're supposed to moderate with something like this? Give me a break, man. Like I said, conservatism works everywhere it's tried. When you look at the past races, when you look at Bob Dole, when you look at McCain, when you look at Mitt Romney, they weren't comfortable articulating conservatism and they lost. At the end of the day, it all relates to the candidate. George W. Bush, to his credit, even though he totally strayed away from fiscal conservatism, and we all took the hit for it, conservatives, real conservatives, he played to the base both times and won. In 2010, historic majority switch in the House because of the Tea Party. Because of the Tea Party, Republicans control the House. John Boehner, you owe your seat to the Tea Party. You don't owe it to the big Republican donors. You don't owe it to the special interests. You don't owe it to the Democrats that you see and work with every day. You owe that seat to the Tea Party, to conservatives that got out there on the grassroots, campaigned, spent their own money, and elected representatives so that we could take over the House and take the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand. You owe that seat to conservatives. You don't owe that seat to the Republican establishment. You don't owe that seat to big pay donors. You don't owe that seat to Reince Priebus. That's a Michael Steele Tea Party grassroots conservative victory. See, 2016 coming up. I don't believe the narrative that Hillary is such a shoo-in for 2016. First, you got Benghazi hanging over and a whole other list of scandals that I don't want to mention. Nixon Watergate, she got booted off of that. Whitewater, and this whole Benghazi, this thing is unraveling, man. This thing, I have a feeling that we're going to know at least part of the real story before 2016. I got to have enough faith in people in the right places and the Senate. Maybe we can get a special counsel, or in the House, that'll provide, whistleblower protection and subpoena power so that we can actually find out what went on in Benghazi that night, because we still don't know who gave the stand down order. We still don't know where was Obama during the night of Benghazi. We don't know that. He went to sleep, whatever. We don't know. So I have faith knowing that people are there in the right places, and, hopefully the truth will come to light. But the Democrats have so many other good candidates that they can choose from. Martin O'Malley from Maryland. Also, Andrew Cuomo from New York. He's going to run. The governor of Massachusetts. You have Cory Booker. He's going to run. He's already reserved the domain, folks. He's running. Okay? You heard it first. You're welcome. He's running. Booker is running, folks. Not saying that he's going to win, but he's going to at least give it a shot. So you already know. But on the Republican side, you have a crop of good candidates that you can choose from. Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Rick Perry. Look at economically what's been done in Texas. I mean, the biggest job creation state in the last 5 years, creating more jobs in that state than the federal government, as far as policy wise. When you look at Scott Walker, Wisconsin, Bobby Jindal, I mean, even Mitch Daniels, and Mitch Daniels is very, very moderate, but his economic record is great. So we have a crop of great candidates to choose from. I don't know what this affection is for Chris Christie is for. I mean, New Jersey is, kind of in between. Now, he did address some issues in the budget, and he did work with the other side, but now look at it. Look at this scandal that's blown up over, closing some lanes at the George Washington Bridge. The Democrats in Trenton are trying to kill him just because a couple of polls said that he leads Hillary. So, I mean, Chris Christie's a decent governor. I don't think he's good for America. He's not a conservative. He's definitely not a constitutionalist. He's not going to stand up for the Bill of Rights. I mean, just look at those gun control bills that he just signed a few months ago. He also believes in this climate change hoax, that there is some emergency out there because the climate keeps shifting, even though historically it's shown that the Earth's climate cycles up and down. So, I just don't think he would be a good president. You look at New Jersey. I mean, we were a disaster when John Corzine was here, and Christie's kind of managed the decay. We don't need someone to manage the decay. We need to paint bold colors like we did in 2010. We need to get people concerned about the right issues, like the growing debt, about the threat of taxation through Obamacare and other failed government programs. We need to have the adult conversation about what's going to happen with Social Security and what's going to happen with Medicare. So that's if we paint those bold colors and we educate the public, I'm talking about conservatives on every level, from dog catcher all the way up to the Senate, then we have a lot to look forward to in 2014 and 2016. So this whole all we can do now is elect the right officials in the right places, go down the pipeline. I don't care. School board counts too. I'm sorry, conservatives. Get off your butts and get down there to the school board and get in some seats. School board too, because you know what? You know the saying, the saying is, the education of a generation, of one generation, will be the leaders of tomorrow's generation. So we have to go out there. We have to make sure that kids are getting the right information. We have to fight this federal initiative, Common Core, making sure they're not watering down good curriculums all over the country. I know Mississippi is fighting, Texas is fighting, people in New Jersey are fighting to get rid of this, to gut this thing out of, our school systems. But, you have a whole lot of other states that they don't know what this is. They don't know, how damaging it is to the standards. I mean, we're already, according to the Global Competitive Index, around 34th 34th in the world as far as education. I remember when we were number one. So, we have to get the federal government as insequential and as far away from our daily and private lives as we can if we're going to survive as a nation, if we're going to survive as a republic. So, going back to what I said, we have a lot of good candidates out there. Why settle? Why settle? All the conservatives and moderates, whatever, throw your hat in the ring and get ready for 2016. Because we need all of the good crop of candidates we can. We need to hold on to the House. We need to, make some ground in the Senate. Conservatives, man, we got to go on the offense, man. I know we're tired. I know we're weary. I know we're taking hits. And I know that the left is relentless. They seemingly have an unlimited amount of resolve. They're definitely well funded. And so do this. Go in your communities. Make a difference. Even if it's really small. Even if it's 2 hours a week. Even if it's 30 minutes a week. We have got to spread the word. If there are institutions out there like Freedom Works or Cure Star Parker or the NRA or, any little contribution, man, we need to strengthen our institutions. We need to train up our children in the right way, showing them what's great about this country and, showing them the history of this country. We don't do everything right as Americans, but we do a hell of a lot more good in this world than what's being credited for. The Democrats, they don't care about the country. They don't love the country. They reject the founding. They reject the Constitution. They reject the Bill of Rights. For them, it's all about their agenda, and it's all about collecting us all into a groups of serfs. It's not about the individual. It's not about freedom. It's not about liberty. And that's why I don't believe in the narrative of moderation, because you can't moderate with that. You can't moderate with a party or an ideology that looks to enslave you. Now, you can appear to be moderate. You can listen attentively. You can engage in the debates and in the public square. There's a difference between having a good presentation and being totally moderate. You can only moderate with someone else that's gonna or if the other side is gonna moderate. But they're at the extreme left. Their party has been taken over by a group of people that don't believe in America, that believe that our best days are behind us, that wants to implement, that will do whatever it takes to implement their socialist and collectivist agenda, no matter who gets hurt. So take some rest, gather up your strength, strengthen your organization, and do just a little bit. And when you start doing a little bit, you'll get the direction in which you should go, whether it's locally, whether it's, through other organizations. We have to strengthen ourselves. This battle is far from over. 2014 has just started, and they're already going after conservatives that spoke against them during the 2012 election cycle. And that's discouraging. That's just so evil, man. That's so like the devil to just go after those that were totally outspoken and totally in opposition to the agenda that's at play. And so we have to gather ourselves, we have to network, we have to work together, we have to pray, folks. This is going to take prayer. This is going to take divine intervention. This is going to take us being in agreement. Forget about, you got enough of you conservatives, you got your shows, whatever. Forget about making money. Forget about that. That's not important. Forget about getting a spot on Breitbart or Fox News fighting for the country. We're fighting for the future. I mean, yeah, all of that stuff is great, and it should, you should reap the rewards of your hard work. But in the end, we have to save the country, and that's the difference between conservative and libertarian and Republican establishment. Republicans are there to win elections. All they care about is having power. We don't care about the power because we know inherently and innately that the power is with the people. Is that our founding fathers gave us the republic. They gave the government to the people that required self-governance, and the power is with us. And the power with us is the power within. And we have to stand together. We have to hold hands. We have to forget about these petty differences. And we have to stay prayed up. Because this is warfare. This is spiritual. This is physical warfare that we're going through. And we can endure this. We've done it before as Americans. We've been at the brink. Like the Great Depression, we came back from the brink. So we can do it again. I believe that we can do it again if we just stand together, forget about the petty squabbles, and let's just move forward, man. Let's just move forward. Let's save the country. Folks, see you next